Last night, you dreamed about something. Maybe you don't remember it. Maybe it slipped away the moment your alarm went off. But somewhere in the dark, your brain built an entire world for you, with characters and danger and impossible physics, and then deleted most of it before breakfast. You probably think dreaming is just mental noise, but the real answer is far stranger. Think about how strange this actually is. Every night, without asking your permission, your mind constructs a fully rendered environment. Sound, movement, fear, sometimes even smell. It does this for free, for no audience, and then it throws the footage away. No species builds something that elaborate without a reason. Nature doesn't usually waste that much energy on nothing. Your brain didn't start doing this yesterday. It didn't start doing this with you. Every human who ever lived dreamed. The hunter who tracked a wounded antelope across a savanna 80,000 years ago dreamed. The first humans who painted animals on cave walls in the dark dreamed before they ever picked up a torch. And for almost the entire span of that history, nobody had a phone, a job, a mortgage, or a single modern fear to dream about. So what were they actually seeing? To understand that, you have to throw out the idea that dreams are random. They aren't static on a screen. They're closer to a simulation. Your brain, every single night, runs a kind of survival rehearsal. It builds a world, drops you into it, and forces you to react. Why would evolution waste that much energy on something so seemingly pointless? The Finnish cognitive scientist, Antti Revonsuo, had a theory for exactly this. He called it the threat simulation theory of dreaming. His research suggested that dreaming evolved as a kind of nighttime training ground, a place where your ancestors could rehearse dangerous situations without actually dying from them, being chased, falling, confronting something with teeth. If you've ever woken up with your heart pounding from a nightmare, you've felt this system firing exactly as designed. Revonsuo didn't just propose this in theory. He looked at dream content across cultures and found the same pattern showing up again and again. Aggression, pursuit, physical danger, not romance, not vacations, not success, threat. Across continents, across centuries, across people who had never met or shared a language, the dreaming brain kept rehearsing the same handful of nightmares. That kind of consistency doesn't happen by accident. It happens because it was useful, and it was useful in a very specific way. A person who rehearsed an escape from a predator in a dream, even an imagined one, may have reacted faster the next time a real branch snapped in the dark. The dream wasn't the danger, it was the drill. Now picture that system running inside someone with no streets, no cars, no electricity. What fills a brain like that at night? Anthropologists have actually tried to find out, not by guessing, but by living alongside the few hunter-gatherer societies that still exist today, the closest living approximation we have to ancient human life. The evolutionary anthropologist David Sampson has spent years studying sleep among groups like the Hadza of Tanzania and the Bayaka of the Congo Basin. His work doesn't just track how long these communities sleep, it tracks the conditions they sleep in, conditions strikingly similar to the ones your ancestors faced for nearly 200,000 years. No locked doors, no walls between you and the dark, just a fire, other bodies close by, and a forest full of sounds you can't always identify. Sleep, in that world, was never fully safe, and your brain knew it. Sampson's fieldwork even found something counterintuitive. These communities, despite far harsher sleeping conditions than yours, didn't report chronic insomnia the way industrialized populations do. Their sleep architecture stayed remarkably stable, tuned to the rising and setting sun, with no artificial light pulling it out of rhythm. The danger was real, but the rhythm was ancient and well practiced. Your body still carries that same rhythm. It just rarely gets to use it properly anymore. That changes the entire emotional texture of an ancient dream. It probably wasn't about late assignments or awkward conversations. It was likely about exposure, predators, separation from the group, hunger, status within the tribe, because losing your place in a group of 30 people could be a death sentence in a way that losing a follower online never will be. Short sentence, brutal reality, higher stakes. Consider what separation actually meant back then. There was no phone to call ahead, no map, no search party with helicopters. If you wandered from your group at dusk and couldn't find your way back, that single mistake could end your life within a matter of hours. Of course your brain would rehearse that fear at night. Of course it would build dreams around losing the group, around wandering alone, around being unable to find your way home. That fear had teeth of its own. Even hunger shows up differently once you imagine it through ancient eyes. You've never gone 3 days without food. Most people watching this never have either. But for most of human history, hunger wasn't a discomfort. It was a constant possibility, hovering at the edge of every season. A dream about food scarcity wasn't anxiety for no reason. It was the brain keeping score of a real and recurring threat, one that simply doesn't exist in the same form for most people today. But here's where it gets stranger. Dreaming research doesn't stop at danger. The American psychiatrist, J. Allen Hobson, who spent decades studying the neuroscience of sleep at Harvard, proposed something called the activation synthesis hypothesis. The idea is simple once you strip away the jargon. While you sleep, your brainstem fires off random electrical signals, almost like static. Your cortex, the part of your brain responsible for meaning and memory, takes that static and tries to make sense of it. It synthesizes a story out of noise. In other words, a dream isn't a message sent to you. It's a story your own mind invents to explain a storm it's already having. Ancient humans would have had no scientific framework for this. To them, that story had to mean something. Hobson's research used something most people never think about: the strange biology of REM sleep itself. During that stage, your eyes move rapidly, your muscles go almost completely paralyzed, and your brain becomes nearly as active as it is while you're awake. Your ancestors weren't gently resting during this part of the night. Their brains were working hard, generating, simulating, building. Paralysis kept the body still while the mind ran its drills, which is itself a kind of evolutionary safety lock. Imagine if your body actually acted out every chase scene your brain invented while you slept beside a fire full of sleeping relatives. That's why almost every ancient and indigenous culture treated dreams as messages, not noise. Spirits, ancestors, warnings. Many cultures still do. There's a reason dream interpretation appears independently in nearly every early civilization, from Mesopotamia to the indigenous nations of North America. When your brain hands you a vivid, emotional, fully rendered experience every single night, and you have no concept of neurons or REM cycles, what else would you call it but a visit? In ancient Mesopotamia, dream interpreters held real social standing, sometimes serving kings, because a dream was treated as information from somewhere outside the self. Centuries later, in ancient Greece, people traveled to sleep inside temples, specifically built for receiving dream visions from the gods. Neither group had access to brain scans. Neither needed them. The experience itself was proof enough that something important had occurred. Here's a question worth sitting with. If a hunter-gatherer 40,000 years ago dreamed about being chased by a lion and woke up afraid, was that dream useless? Or did it just save his life the next morning by sharpening his fear at exactly the right moment? This is the part that should reframe everything. Dreaming wasn't decoration. It was rehearsal. Practice for staying alive in a world that offered no second chances. Some researchers, including those building on Ravenswo's threat simulation framework, argue this is precisely why nightmares are still so universal today, even in a world with locks on every door and seatbelts in every car. The system that built those dreams is millions of years old. It doesn't know your front door has a deadbolt. It still runs the same ancient software. Which brings us to the part of this story that's about you, right now, tonight. You don't sleep next to a fire anymore. You don't worry about a leopard near the tree line, and yet you still dream about being chased. You still dream about losing something important. You still dream about being exposed, embarrassed, unprepared, late, unseen. Why hasn't that ancient alarm system updated itself? Because it doesn't need to. The hardware that built your dream last night is the same hardware that built dreams for every human who came before you, stretching back further than language itself. It doesn't distinguish between a sabretooth cat and a performance review. It just knows you're afraid, and it builds a world around that fear, the same way it always has. Think about the most common dream people report worldwide: being chased by something you can't quite see. Now think about how rarely you're actually chased in your daily life. The mismatch is the entire point. Your circuitry is centuries behind your circumstances, still running threat simulations for a predator that no longer exists, because nothing in its design has told it to stop. So when you wake up shaken from a nightmare about something completely irrational, you're not malfunctioning. You're running a system that kept your ancestors alive long enough to have you. A system old enough to have watched fire get discovered. A system that doesn't know the difference between a falling tree and a falling stock price, because to your brainstem, both just register as the world becoming unstable. And maybe that's worth remembering the next time you wake up at 3 in the morning, pulse racing, from a dream about nothing real. Somewhere underneath the panic is an ancient piece of machinery, still doing exactly what it was built to do, still trying to keep you alive in a world it has never fully recognized as safe. It has no calendar. It doesn't know fire is in a stove now instead of a pit. It only knows fear, and it answers fear the only way it has ever known how, by building you a world to survive in, one dream at a time. That's the real answer, the one hiding underneath something as ordinary as a forgotten dream. You think dreaming is mental noise, but the real answer is that it never stopped being a survival rehearsal.